I'm starting QTP on my machine, and we'll see how to basically work with QTP. We'll be seeing the very initial steps in QTP, the very basic steps in QTP, that how this tool can be used to test applications and all. Right. Basically, all the automation testing tools are supposed to be used in the functional stage of automation. They are not supposed to, sorry, during the regression phase of automation. Okay, these are functional testing tools. They are used in regression phase. Don't try to use them on applications which are under development or applications which are unstable. Right? If you try to test applications which are unstable with these tools and all, it will waste your time. These tools are better suited for applications which are stable, which are in the regression phase, and which you have to test every week or something. Fine. Even Selenium, RFT, any other tool, if you talk about automation testing tool, it has to be used during, just a minute, during the regression phase. Now QTP as a tool can be used to test desktop as well as web-based applications. This is the starting page which you get when you start QTP. Out here you have a test tab, and there is a menu out here on the top. Fine. We'll be seeing each and every of these features. Okay. The best place to learn QTP is through the help menu. Right. You go to help menu, and there is a HP QTP help available over here. This document, it's a very good document about VB script as well. VB script is a reference language which is used in QTP. For example, Selenium is available with many programming languages. Similarly, QTP is available with VB script. It's a very powerful language. And VB script is a language which is by Microsoft, right? Microsoft developed Windows, Microsoft developed VB. VB only works on Windows. That's why QTP also only works in Windows. It's a software made for Windows only because it supports VB only, right? So you click on this test panel and you will get a page like this, right? This is known as, this is the central panel where you will be doing all the coding, the VB coding and all. And out here on the left side you will see a test and action 1 written. Okay, this test out here represents a test case, and inside one test case there can be various actions present. Fine. For example, my test can be checking a mail. So I can have 3 actions over there. The first action will log you in, second action will be checking the mail, and third action will be logging you out. Okay, so we'll be talking about actions and all. We'll be talking about everything else in detail. But first of all, let's see the commonly asked questions and the common mistakes which people do while working with QTP. Fine. The first question which sometimes people ask me, can it be used for UI based testing? Well, it's a regression, it's a functional testing tool. You can use it for regression testing. UI based testing, fine, but don't do that. Okay, it can do it, right? But the only thing is you have to test the functionality of your application with this tool. You don't have to test the UI because these tools are used on stable applications. Fine. Another question being asked to me is very frequently by people. They ask me, is VB scripting tough? How much VB script do I have to use, or is the coding tough in QTP? It's like if you have to work in a very professional way in this tool, then you have to learn VB scripting a lot. There's a lot of VB script which you can learn, which you can work with to be proficient with this tool, and to work at a very professional level you need to actually know VB script in depth, right? If you just have to use it superficially or just have to get a knowledge of it, then you don't need to know so much VB script. But if you really have to learn this tool in depth, then good knowledge of VB script is necessary. And in this course, we'll be starting with VB scripting. We'll be seeing VB scripting at various stages. Fine. Now, after installing QTP, you'll see like after we have started QTP, you will see a record button on the top left. Okay, this record button can be used to record applications, web-based as well as Windows-based applications can be recorded. Like any other automation testing tool, the record run feature is there in QTP as well. Okay, but the record run feature is not so successful always. It looks fancy that you simply record your scripts and run them the next day and they will work fine. Okay, but this record run is not successful for complex applications, for applications which are changing dynamically. For example, you need to go to kingfisherairlines.com and book a ticket, the most cheapest ticket between Delhi and Mumbai, right? In that case, if you go to kingfisherairlines.com and record booking the ticket today, tomorrow the prices might change. So your initial requirement was you need to book the most cheapest ticket between the two destinations. That is gone. So record run is a good feature, but it is not so successful every time. Fine. But you have to, but we'll start with record run. We'll start with the basics of QTP. Fine. Now at times, like how do you record the application? How do you run the application? You simply have to click on this record button and you will see a window like this. Okay, this is the record and run settings window. The settings are very important. As we know, QTP can test Windows as well as web-based applications. So this tab shows us the record and settings of web-based applications, and this tab is for Windows-based applications. Okay, right now the first radio button is selected, record and run the test on any open browser. Right. This means that basically you will have to manually open the browser. You will have to manually specify on which browser you have to record and run. Right. Basically, QTP is supporting right now 3 browsers are being supported. IE is supported, Mozilla is supported, and Chrome is also supported. In Chrome, only running the scripts are supported, not recording the scripts. In Mozilla, up to 3.5.16 version of Mozilla is supported. Mozilla 5, 6, 7, 10, 11 is not supported. Right. And i8, i9, they work fine with it. Okay. Now in the record run settings, if I go, hold on, just let me check my Mozilla version. Yeah, it is the right version. Okay. Now sometimes what happens is, if you record, suppose I am recording, right? I go into the recording mode. I open up my Mozilla. Fine. After opening the Mozilla, suppose I go to the site bbc.com. Oh, just a minute. I open Mozilla. So if you look at the script which is generated when I open the Mozilla, it is systemutil.run. The path of the Mozilla exe file on your system gets printed out here. Okay, and after that, if you write over here bbc.com, and after going to bbc.com, hold on, let bbc.com open. After opening bbc.com, say I click on news. Fine. And if you look at the, okay, it's not recorded clicking on the news. 1 minute. Let this web page load completely. Hold on. Yeah. So if you see that it has generated some script. This script is generated automatically by QTP while recording. Okay, and you might be able to figure out a little bit what this whole stuff means. Okay, might be able to figure out a little bit, right? Now in this script, if you actually look at the lines carefully, the first line means open the browser. Second is the sync command, which means let the page open, right? Then navigate to bbc.com and click on news link. We'll be studying about each and every of these commands in detail, right? But there are times when people come to me and tell me my QTP is not recording. There are various reasons that your QTP might not record. All the reasons are because of mistakes made by us. Fine. The first rule for recording on QTP is that QTP only works on Internet Explorer and Mozilla for recording. Okay, only IE and Mozilla. Chrome can be used to run the scripts, but for that you have to install an add-on from HP. There is an add-on provided by HP to the licensed QTP users, which help you to run the scripts on Chrome as well. If you record the script on Mozilla and run it in Chrome, fine. After IE and Mozilla, these two browsers are supported, and QTP only records on those browsers which are opened after opening QTP. Fine. Do not open a browser before opening QTP. If you open the browser first and then open QTP and then start recording on the browser, QTP will not record on the browser. So all the browsers should be opened after opening QTP. Okay. At times in Windows 7 there is something known as turning off UAC. Make sure that you have turned off your user account control in Windows 7. If you go to your control panel in Windows 7, I'm not having Windows 7, but I'll just tell you, go to Google and just search turn off UAC in Windows 7. Okay, you'll get the commands on how to turn off UAC in Windows 7. Okay, so you can turn off the UAC in Windows 7 and then try working with QTP. You might have to restart your system after turning the UAC. Okay, in Windows 7 sometimes people don't get this command, systemutil.run, the path of the exe file. So you can manually write that command as well. Okay. Now after this, one more thing, be very careful about the add-ons in your browser. At times what happens is that sometimes people have got add-ons installed in their browser, like the ones which I have over here, Facebook add-on, eBay add-on and all. Okay. Now these add-ons sometimes, like the Yahoo search add-on in the browser, sometimes what happens, one of the add-ons conflicts with QTP and QTP never records. Okay, so please make sure that no add-on is installed on your browser, although I have it right now, but none of them is conflicting with QTP. So no add-on should be installed inside a browser, and these are the conditions to actually record on web-based applications. Okay, now recording on Windows-based applications. Recording on Windows-based applications. Now before I tell you that, what's the usage of record run, you might have seen it, the script will repeat itself. If you click on the run icon over here on the top left, if I click on run and click on OK, so what will happen is the browser will open and it will go to bbc.com and it will click on the news link. So it repeats the same steps which we had recorded. Okay, but this kind of testing is not so successful in the applications which are made today. Record and run is not so successful because everybody knows that today's applications are made in Ajax, the HTML5 languages have come up, and all the applications are dynamic. Fine, you need to verify the data from the external files, database and all. So there's a lot of stuff involved. So it's just not record and run, although this thing looks very fancy. Fine. Similarly, Windows-based applications can also be recorded, and you can also run the Windows-based applications with QTP. To record and run the Windows-based applications in QTP, for example, I open the calculator. Okay, this is the basic calculator which I have in Windows Server 2003 environment. If I click on the record button, fine. If I just a minute. Click on the record button and go to calculator and click on the button, see it's recording. Okay, but when you install QTP in your machine, you will see that QTP will not record Windows-based applications. Why? Because there is a specified setting for recording Windows-based application. You need to go to automation record run settings window. Again, this was the window which came up, right, for recording web-based applications. If you select the second radio button, it will automatically open the browser and take you to the desired location. I always keep the first radio button active in web-based. For Windows-based applications, make sure that in the second radio button all the three checkboxes are checked. When you install QTP, the second option is unchecked. Okay, applications opened via desktop. So if I start recording now after unchecking that option, if I click on the buttons, you see nothing is working. It's not recording. Okay, so this happens. This happens frequently when you install QTP, when you have installed QTP freshly on your machine, and then people come to me and tell me that QTP is not recording my Windows-based applications. It's because in your automation record run settings, you need to go to Windows application. Either first select the first radio button that record any open Windows-based application, or the second radio button with all the three options checked. Fine. When you check the options and then you click on record, what happens is, now if I open calculator, it will start recording. Right? So this is how you test, or this is how you record Windows-based applications. So Windows and web-based applications both are supported. At times Windows-based applications are not recorded. So at that time you have to install another add-on in QTP, the add-ons which we talked about when we started the session. When you start QTP, you get the list of add-ons, right? So you might have to get more new add-ons, and you might have to work with them, right? Now this is the test which we made, and the coding was obviously recorded in action 1. Fine. Now there are various views available in QTP. Okay, if you go to view, just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, I'll talk about that later on. Fine. So, not able to get it right now. Anyways, all the coding has to be done inside this panel. Okay, and if you go out here in your view, then you will see various options over here. Active screen, available keywords, debug viewer information. These are the various panels in QTP. Okay, for example, there's a panel called test flow over here, which has got the action and action 1. If I want to get rid of this panel, you can uncheck the test flow over here. That panel will get automatically disappear. Now the second panel comes up, available keywords. If you click on available keywords, this goes away. Then resources, this goes away. So you can enable or disable your panels from the view options. At times people say that I'm not able to see the test flow panel or something. It can be the panels are available from this location. We'll be studying about all the panels as we proceed with the course, but first be very comfortable. with the working of QTP and how to enable disable panels. Fine. Now this is a test. If you want to save the test, you can save it on your hard disk. I'll save and I'll make a folder. Okay, this is our day 1. Okay, inside this location, inside the day 1 folder, I am saving the test with the name basic. Okay, so if you physically go to that location and look at the test basic, it will look like a folder to you. It will not look like a file. The tests which you store with QTP, they look like a folder. If you open up this folder, you will see action 1, action 0 and various other files which you will be studying later on. Fine, if you go inside action 1, you will see script.mts file. If you open this file in say edit plus, you will actually see the script which you had made. Okay, so in this MTS file, the script is actually stored. Right, just telling you for your information. You can make a new test by clicking over here, new test. Then everything will be gone and the new test will be made. If you want to open the existing test which we saved, you can go to open test and the basic test will be available over here. It will not look like a folder in this view. Okay, so QTP, if you see, it will look like a test. This is the icon of test in QTP and it will not look like an image. Fine, so right, so this is where many people, they also get confused that this is like a folder over there, an image over here. So QTP stores the script in a folder, but the folder is available, it looks like an image out here. Okay, now this is about the basics of QTP, that is how QTP records the applications, how can we run the applications with QTP, what are the various prerequisites, that is record and run settings, how to record in Windows based applications, how to record in web based applications and all. Fine. Now, how does QTP work? How it records, how it recognizes everything? Let's talk about that. Okay. Basically, first of all, in QTP, if you talk about a browser, then everything including the browser is known as an object. Inside this browser is an object, this page is known as an object, this button is an object, this link is an object, everything is known as an object. If you actually see automation testers talking to each other, you will obviously hear the term object is not visible, object cannot be found or something like that. So everything is known as an object in QTP. Fine. And like when you visit a site, suppose I as a user, okay, I visit this site google.com, I see this input field where I can type anything. Okay, so how do I remember it when I reach this website later on? I remember that there was a field called there was this field in which you had to enter something and you had to click on this Google search. So when you open a website for the first time, okay, you go to the contents of the website and those contents, they are stored in your memory as a user. And when you open it for the second time, you are able to relate the contents which you had stored earlier and you use them. Similarly, on this concept, QTP also works. When you open up a website in the recording mode, QTP stores the information in its brain. The brain of QTP is known as the object repository. The symbol of object repository is out here, this yellow, green and red symbol. Okay, if you click on it, you will see a panel coming up. This is the object repository panel. This is the kind of, you can say, brain for QTP. Out here it keeps everything, all the information which you collect during the recording process. And when you run the script, it maps the information from this repository, from the brain of QTP to the application. Okay, you'll come to know. I'll show you in the live presentation. That is, suppose I go in the recording mode. Fine, and I open QTP. Sorry, I open Mozilla. Fine, and after opening Mozilla, if you look at QTP, nothing is there in the repository as of now. Okay, just a minute. Now I type the google.com. So what happens is that two things go inside the repository. One is the browser and other is the page. This is the Mozilla browser and page is the blank page which got opened in the very beginning. Okay, and on google.com, suppose I type hello in this input box and click on the Google search button. So in repository you will see that under the page there's one more page which has got added. This was the blank page which got opened, and this is the Google page on which I navigated later on. Okay, under the Google page there were two objects present. One was the Google search button and other was the search web edit, the edit box. Fine. So all the elements or all the objects with which you interact while working with QTP, okay, during the recording process, they get added in the repository. Fine. On this web page for google.com, I just used this input field and Google search button. Only these two fields were added inside the brain of QTP, not the other links and all, nothing else. Only the elements with which you interact, they are added inside the repository, not the whole page, right? And if you look at the repository now, after stopping the recording, the fading will go away in the repository and it will look like this. Now what is this name, class, repository, local and all? We'll study about this. Fine. You can also inspect the application. For example, this is my Google page. Fine. You need to inspect this page. You can also inspect this page with the help of SPY. SPY is like the eye of QTP, through which if you want to see how QTP looks at your page, then you can use Object SPY. This is the window for Object SPY. Okay, and if to use Object SPY, maximize your browser and maximize QTP. Make sure that the browser is behind QTP. Okay, and then click on this hand icon. When you click on this hand icon, QTP will vanish and the window behind QTP will come up, that is your browser. If you move your mouse over this window, this SPY will tell you various objects present in this window. If you look at this browser page, web element, these are all the objects. Fine. I'll talk about the objects in some time. What all are the classification of objects. Fine. But if you want to investigate your page, you can use SPY and investigate your page. Right. And the same objects which you see in SPY are added in the object repository. For example, this Google search button, it's a type of web button. If you look at any object, then every object has got set of properties. And there is a property called class name associated with every type of object. Suppose I look at browser. Fine. Browser has, just a minute. Mozilla crashed. If you go to Google and use SPY, fine. Now first of all, if you are using SPY, you will not be able to move this SPY window. If I try to move this window, QTP will come back, right? If you click anywhere on the page, QTP will come back. right? QTP gets disappeared, right, when we use object spy. When I click on this hand, if you want to move the object spy window, then you have to press the control button of your keyboard. When you press control, the spy gets disabled. See, I am moving my mouse over the objects and no property is being displayed by spy. As soon as I release the keyboard control button, spy will get activated and you will be able to see all the properties of the objects. Right? Now what does spy gives us? If suppose I spy the Google search button, fine. If you look at the properties, the class name of this button is web button. Every object, remember, every object has a class name. For example, the browser object has the class name browser, the page object has the class name page. If you look at this, this is a web edit. The input field is known as web edit in QTP. It's got the class name as web edit. The link has a class name called link. So every object has a class name, right? And out here you see the class names. Okay, and all the other properties are the properties of the object. That is, what are the XY coordinates, class, color, ID, all these other properties of this object. These are known as the identification properties of the object in QTP. There are two properties, native and identification. Right now we will talk about identification properties only. In coming classes we will talk about the other properties. So every object can be spied on and we can see the properties of the object in the spy. When you record the script, the same object gets added inside the repository. Spy is like the eye of QTP. Through that you can observe the objects. Fine. In advanced QTP, spy is used a lot. Object repository is like the brain of QTP. When you record the script, the objects with which you interact, they come inside the repository, the object repository. Okay. If you look at the object repository out here, it's got an object called browser in the very beginning. On the left panel, you will see the properties of that object. The name of that object is browser and the class is browser. This class is the predefined class which we were seeing in the object spy. We saw various classes in the object spy, right? So this class is the predefined class which we saw in the object spy, and if I expand this Google is the name of this object, the class is page. Fine. Google search is the name, class is web button. You cannot change the class, you can change the name. I'll tell you how to change the name, hold on. And these are the various properties of this button. These properties were also visible to us when we were spying. Right? Let me spy again. Spy icon is also there in object repository. If I spy the Google search button again, you will see that, just click on that button and QTP will come back. You will see that some of the properties like type is submit. If you scroll down in spy, then type equals to submit. Name is Google search. Name is Google search. Right? HTML tag is button. So if you look at this, HTML tag is button. So the bare minimum properties with which QTP can identify the object while running the script, they come inside the object repository. You can add more properties or you can delete the existing properties if you want. Suppose I delete the HTML tag, I can delete it from here. If I want to add more properties, you can click on this add icon and you can add more properties like the value, okay, or the outer text. Fine, any property. These are the same properties which are there in the spy. Okay. Similarly, Q is the web edit. This is the search box. The name of that web edit was Q. These are the properties. Fine. So object spy tells you about the object information It's like something which is like a reader which can read your page. It's similar to Firebug in Mozilla. Fine, it can read your page. It can even read your Windows-based applications. Suppose I open calculator and I use spy on calculator. If I use spy on calculator, you will see that it is identifying the calculator as a window. Fine. In this, there is a Win button. For web-based applications, the object names are like web button, web link, web edit, web radio button, web checkbox. For Windows-based applications, the name of objects are like this: Win button, Win edit, Win checkbox, Win radio button. Fine. So there's obviously the pattern, you can see the pattern. For the Windows, it is Win button, right? Similarly, this is the Win edit. So you can spy the desktop as well as Windows-based applications with spy. Usage of spy is very important because practically when we work with QTP, okay, in advanced QTP, if you talk to any good programmer in QTP, he will never use object repository. Practically, we just use VB scripting, descriptive programming, automation object model and all, and we work without object repository. But the concept of object repository is very important because this gives you the fundamentals of QTP, how QTP works. Fine. When I run the script, how the script runs. If you look at the first line says that systemutil.run open Firefox. The second line says that browser.page.sync. What does this mean? Browser. This means that there is a browser class object. Okay. This is the class name. Okay. Whatever is there without double quotes is the class name. There is a browser class object in the repository whose name is browser. So we'll go in the repository, we'll see that fine. This is the browser class object whose name is browser. .page. Inside it there is a page class object. Now inside browser there are two page class objects. One is the blank page and one is the Google page. Okay. But the name of the page class object is page. So this is obviously the blank page because the name is page. .sync. Sync means let the page load. So let the full page load. You open up Mozilla and let the Mozilla open up, let the synchronization take place. Okay. Now after this browser, that means navigate. This browser class object .navigate. Navigate is a command. Navigate to google.com. That means navigate the browser to google.com. After that browser. There is a browser class object whose name is browser. Fine. Inside it there is a page class object whose name is Google. Whatever is in the double quotes, these are the name of the objects. And whatever without double quotes are the class names, the predefined class names which are there in QTP. Okay. So browser.page Google. So this is the Google page. Fine. Inside the Google page there is a web edit whose name is Q. This is the web edit, the class is web edit, name is Q. .set hello. Set is an operation, okay, which can be performed on an object. .set hello will set the property of the object, that is, it will set hello inside the input box. And similarly, the last line browser.page Google .web button Google search. So this will, the control will go inside this Google search web button, and .click means click on it. If I give any object which is not there in the object repository, I'll get an error. For example, I write browser 1111 over here, and when I run this script, I will get an error. Okay, the browser 1111 browser object was not found in the object repository. So you have to be very careful. Just don't change the name of the browser from the script. Okay, that's why if I record, say if I record and I go and click on the button 5 of the calculator. Many times people think you can change 5 to 8 and it will click on 8. But it will not click on it, it will throw you an error because in the repository there is a calculator class object. Inside it there is a win button whose name is 5. The text of this button is 5. Okay, so you do not click on 8, right? So you just cannot change the object descriptions from the script. You have to change it from the very core, that is the object repository. Suppose this is my browser class object over here. If I want to change the name of the browser, suppose I want to change the name of my browser to Mozilla, you can change the name from here. This is the right place to change the name. Always remember, if you want to change the name of the object which is used in script, change from here. You can write over here the name of the browser is Mozilla. You can hit enter and you see that in script it will change automatically. Similarly, I don't like the name of this object Q. Okay, I want to name it as edit search box. When you hit enter, in your script as well it will change to search box. But don't change these properties. The name Q will remain over here in the object details. This is the actual thing. Okay, this is the superficial name which you can use in the script. Okay, when the script runs, this name out here is found in the repository out here, which in turn looks for this name. Okay, so you can change this name, you can name anything, but don't change the ultimate name because this is the actual name of the object in the application, right? So this is how you can change the contents of the repository as well. So what we studied that spy is used to read the objects. Okay, you can read the objects in the application with spy. When you record the script, the same objects with which you interact, only the objects with which you interact, they get added into your object repository. Object repository is like the brain of your QTP. In this, everything is stored. Whatever you are recording is getting stored in this. And this repository will contain all your objects which are present in the code. Right? And what kind of objects are there in QTP? We saw browser, we saw web button and all. In case of Windows-based applications, there is an object called browser which represents the browser. Fine. Then we have the input box. We have link which represents links. Page represents a page, a normal web page. Fine. We have an object called web radio group, which represents radio button. Okay, web checkbox. This class represents the checkboxes. Fine. Then we have got web tables. I'll talk about what web tables are. I'll talk about them later on. Okay. So then a drop list is known as a web list. Fine. Suppose if I go to the site quicker.com. Right? On this site you will see that, hold on, if you have any questions feel free to ask me. You can, I think your mic is working, right? You can ask me. And suppose if I am on this site quicker.com and I use the object spy, then this is known as a web list. The drop list is known as a web list. On this website there is a drop list over here. Okay, so this is known as a web list. Okay, and there are other objects as well. Window, browser, web button, web edit, web list. Okay. In case of Windows-based applications, instead of web terminology, we use Win radio button, Win checkbox, Win list, Win button, Win edit. Fine. So, right. So these are the general classification of objects in QTP. Another thing is known as image. The image which you see on the websites. For example, on quicker.com, if you look at this, Quicker, it's an image. You will see the image, file name and all, everything over here. Okay, you will see all the things present out here. Now, if you just a minute, I'll again talk about spy. Okay, because at times people they get confused with spy. How is spy used? The first and foremost thing is that the application which you are testing, it should be opened and it should be opened behind QTP. Okay, then you use object spy and you will be able to use it. You cannot move the object spy window. If you click anywhere on the page, QTP will come back. Okay, if you have to move the object spy window or you have to disable object, you hit the control button of your keyboard and then move the object spy window. So this is how you can work with spy. It is very, very important concept. Okay, so I'll save this test as basics of object repository. Fine. So we saw how to work with QTP, what add-ons are, how do we work with add-ons. While installing, you can bring in more add-ons in your QTP. We saw the various conditions which should be there for recording web-based and Windows-based applications with QTP. Fine. We saw the concept of object spy. We saw the concept of object repository. Object spy is like the eye of QTP. Object repository is like a database or the brain of QTP in which it stores all the objects which were used during the recording process. Fine. So I just talked about the basics of QTP. I am not starting with what you say VB scripting as of now, because VB scripting I'll start once we have started with once we have understood little concepts of QTP, what object repository is, what are all the concepts of object repositories, then we'll start with VB scripting. Fine. So that's it.